Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation. This is where right and left can come to be reasonable. Now, we're going to be talking about what's happening here at home, but we all know we got to have common concern when people are literally having the storm heading right at them. And that is the situation in Jamaica. We don't know yet what the numbers are, what the degree is, what the duration will be, but one of the 5 strongest hurricanes to ever hit the Atlantic basin is what is devastating Jamaica right now. They're going to need everything. In terms of what we can't deal with money and resources, again, we don't know yet. But you see what's on the screen, the Red Cross link. If you want to help, your money is the best message right now. So if you can, please do. But at a minimum, please pay attention. Now, let's talk about what's happening at home, okay? Trump's immigration crackdown and the protests against them. This is a metaphor for a good idea gone wrong, okay? And my headline on this is, you're doing too much, okay? It's not just perception, it's the reality, all right? And perception is often the reality in life, but certainly in politics. And optics fuel perception as much as any actions, all right? Now, I'm telling you, when you look at the administration's actions, I know what people voted for. They voted for a secure southern border and for immigration laws to be enforced. But there has to be prosecutorial discretion. Not everybody who enters this country the wrong way is the wrong kind of person to allow into America. A lot of people came in the wrong way, but they've done everything right since. And the way they're going about executing the administration's plan is bad with optics, it's bad with perception, and I believe it is feeding a bad reality. Yes, you can say, oh, but they all broke the law. Again, prosecutorial discretion. What some people mean to their communities, what they mean to our basis of employment, okay? The money that they pay in taxes that their employers take, even though they don't really get any services. I know what they're telling you, that Democrats want every illegal to get free health care. It's BS. Now, one of the reasons there's so much pressure is what the president wants to show. The Trump administration set a ridiculous goal of 3,000 arrests a day. Do you know what kind of manpower that would take? What kind of coordination? What kind of logistics? That's why it looks so lousy. They're asking these men and women to literally do the impossible. ICE is overperforming any standard they've ever had before, and they're at about 1,000 a day. So it's not enough for Trump. So you know what he's doing, right? He's the "you fired" guy. So he's swapping people out because he doesn't understand the job. He doesn't understand what it takes to do it right, the right way, which is what these men and women care about. I know you got problems with the masks. I know you got problems with identification. There are two sides to that story, but I get that it's a bad look. Again, the optics. But to replace people from ICE who are in this business of knowing how to get people and where, and replacing them with Border Patrol agents, and you think you're going to pump up the numbers and not have problems? They're putting too much pressure on these agents, okay? Oh, but Obama, it's 3 million over 8 years, done the right way with deference to due process. That's how they got 3 million migrants out. Not 1,000 a day. That's not how they did it, because that wasn't the right way to do it. And I would argue that's true now also. Two things can be true at the same time. People are here illegally. We need more enforcement. The Democrats were too lax, especially under Biden, especially on the southern border. True. But, you know, the fix should not be worse than the infection, okay? And that's why communities are upset. So now you flip it, okay? He's bringing in CBP. He's bringing in other people. He wants more. Look, it's a mistake to bring people in who don't have the same training and expect better output if they're going to be doing it the right way. Now, the administration may not care about that. MAGA may not care about it, but I care about it. And I bet you care about it. You want people dealt with as human beings, even if they've broken the law, especially if what they're breaking the law from was this act of desperation to come here. If they're a bad hombre, if they're a gangbanger, if they're bringing in fentanyl or they're human traffickers, that's different. There's no way you're getting 1,000 of them a day. And that's why they won't show us the data. Again, that's why they won't show us the data, okay? And they'll even tell you, oh, you'll spin the data. Hey, that's my business. You're supposed to provide transparency, and you're not. Okay. Now, look, this isn't guesswork. Earlier this month, Border Patrol agents shot a woman, okay? That's what happened in Chicago. All right. Why? She was rushing them. They were worried. They had a reasonable fear of serious injury, or, they triggered the legal standard, and they did what they did. Now, then we saw the man in charge of Trump's immigration crackdown in Chicago, the border chief, Greg Bovino, seen throwing a gas canister into a crowd. Was he in the right to do that? Maybe. Was it right that he did that? Of course not. It's a terrible look. Why? Well, what's the rule? Well, you can throw it in there if they're rioting. All right? Now, did they release video that made it look worse than a protest? Yes. It turns out there were protesters throwing rocks, launching fireworks, and advancing on agents. You are asking for trouble. That is too much. And I warn the left, there is opportunity in the mistakes and the choices that this administration is making, but you will not take advantage of those if you become what you oppose. Look at the No Kings protests. That is the recipe for a reciprocal movement to tap into the majority of concern in this country. Forget about the wow factor of how nonviolent it was, which I was shocked by. I hate that that was the standard, but that's why it got no coverage, by the way, because it wasn't violent. The largest single day of protest, a lot of people in the prime of their lives, not blue-haired, not fringe, right? The main fabric of this country who want better of their leaders, want better from the policies, and they want better out of their lives. That is the model. That is the majority. That's why it was the biggest single day ever. Public Citizen is a legit group. They are nonpartisan. The guys running this thing are real. That is the way to take advantage of what isn't going well, the promise of better, and a movement to combat MAGA. But you've got these anti-ICE protests filled with insurgents, anarchists, fringe players, people who are just about anger and trying to outrage, and you're making Trump look justified in bringing the military into cities and to saying, look at these people, they are the problem. You're giving him that excuse. It is a bad look. I'm not saying don't be outraged. I'm talking about how to exercise that outrage. You don't have to lose your best judgment just because you're angry. It's more likely, but you don't have to. AOC going after Riley Gaines. Look, why do I talk about AOC? She could be one of the main contenders for the Democratic nomination for President of the United States. Maybe Vice President of the United States. She matters. She's got a big following. She's got big charisma. She's got a growing amount of power. And to be in a teenage trash-talking battle with Riley Gaines, saying she doesn't have a real job, saying if you didn't come in fifth, maybe you wouldn't be so upset. You want to lead the country? Now, look, I know there's a misplaced sense of muscularity in that right now. Newsom tweeting like Trump, owning him. I get it. That people who don't like what's happening in the country are so desperate for a muscular response, for someone to fight back. But how you do it matters. I don't think these kinds of antics are getting you where you want to be with the majority in this country. You're not going to beat what you are against by being like what you're against. I know it beat you. I know that's frustrating because you think that it's not worthy of the power that it has in this administration. But you will not beat what beat you if you become what beat you. I don't believe that. You can have the same energy, you can have the same urgency, but you've got to have different devices, different messaging. You've got to be about better. That's what the majority of the country wants. That's why MAGA has not taken hold the way Trump and his people wanted it to. It doesn't speak to the majority with its harshness, with its otherizing, with its meanness, with its fear, with its demagoguery. America is not about harsh strength. It's not about bullies. It's about sweet strength. It's about people who step up to do for others and show that vulnerability, that they care, who are resilient, and who are focused on doing the right thing, no matter what's happening around them. Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.